Some places are not waiting for the future to flood them. They are already sinking. The ground is dropping beneath homes, roads, churches, airports, and entire capitals. In some places, the ocean is rising. In others, the land itself is collapsing. And in the worst cases, both are happening at the same time. Today, we're counting down the top 9 places that are sinking into the sea. Stay until number 1. Because the final city is so fragile that engineers built giant steel barriers just to keep history above water. Before we begin, tell us in the comments which place you think is most at risk. Number 9. Houston, Texas. Houston does not look like a city that is sinking. That is what makes it dangerous. Number 9. Phoenix, Arizona. From the air, Phoenix looks almost impossible. A vast grid of roads and homes spreads across the Sonoran Desert like a metropolis dropped onto another planet. And then summer arrives. Temperatures regularly climb above 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The city doesn't simply become hot, it stores heat. Buildings and roads absorb solar energy during the day, then slowly release it at night. Instead of cooling naturally, parts of the city remain dangerously warm. This creates the urban heat island effect. Nighttime relief disappears, making heat stress far more dangerous for everyone. Phoenix became possible because humans learned to engineer around it. Air conditioning, massive reservoirs, and canals carrying water across enormous distances made it a reality. What looks like an ordinary suburb is actually part of one of the largest experiments in desert urban living on Earth. At night, Las Vegas glows so brightly that from the surrounding desert, it looks less like a city and more like a spacecraft. Towers flash, fountains erupt, and artificial lakes shimmer. But this is the Mojave Desert, one of the driest parts of North America, a landscape of rock, dust, and scrub. Instead of building a city that belongs in the desert, humans built replicas of Venice and Paris, reflecting cities from around the globe. There are fountains in a place where water is a precious resource. Water depends heavily on the Colorado River and Lake Mead. The city is effectively plugged into systems that extend far beyond the desert around it. Las Vegas built an industry around pretending the desert isn't there, but our next city took this problem and scaled it into something far more ambitious. Number 7. Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Imagine glass towers rising more than half a mile into the sky from an empty desert coastline. It's a manufactured miracle. Artificial islands stretch into the Gulf and highways cut across landscapes that were empty desert within living memory. Dubai relies on desalination, turning seawater into fresh water through massive, energy-intensive industrial networks. Then there is the heat. Indoor life depends entirely on air conditioning, turning shopping malls into climate-controlled sanctuaries. Dubai's existence is the story of using energy and engineering to manufacture the very conditions a megacity needs. Next, we go somewhere where water is everywhere, but it's frozen solid. Number 6. Iqaluit, Canada. Located in the Arctic, this city sits on Baffin Island, surrounded by tundra, rock, and ice. There are no highways connecting Iqaluit to the rest of Canada. Supplies and people arrive only by aircraft or seasonal sea lift. Then there is the permafrost. Building on frozen ground is a battle. If it thaws unevenly, foundations shift and roads deform. Winter brings months of darkness. Life follows rhythms most people farther south never experience, dictated by extreme seasons. Inuit communities have lived here for generations. Modern Iqaluit combines that history with modern infrastructure to survive. Nature sets brutal conditions, but humans adapt. Next, a city where the problem isn't the cold, it's the air. Number 5. El Alto, Bolivia. Mountains rise across the horizon, and the city stretches across a high plateau more than 13,000 feet above sea level. At that altitude, the air contains far less oxygen. Headaches, shortness of breath, and dizziness can be immediate for any newcomer. Yet a major urban center functions here. Homes, markets, and neighborhoods thrive where an outsider would struggle to carry luggage. It's connected to La Paz by one of the world's most distinctive cable car systems, gliding high above the steep terrain. Andean populations have adapted over generations, turning this extreme environment into an ordinary hometown. But if you think 13,000 feet is high, the next city pushes even further. Next, Cerro de Pasco. Number 4. Cerro de Pasco, Peru. High in the Andes sits a city that looks like it has been fighting the mountain itself. At 14,000 feet, it is one of the highest settlements on Earth. An enormous open-pit mine expands directly into the urban landscape. From above, the contrast is startling. Dense neighborhoods surrounding a vast crater carved into the earth. Mining defined the economy but brought serious health concerns. The body faces stress from both the extreme altitude and industrial contamination. Yet families stay and life continues. Extreme cities aren't populated by people who think they live somewhere impossible. To them, it is simply Tuesday. But altitude still gives you sunlight. Our next city spends part of the year under a sky that barely changes at all. Next, Norilsk. Number 3. Norilsk, Russia. Far above the Arctic Circle, Norilsk exists in a world of long winters, powerful winds, and frozen ground. For part of the winter, the sun simply does not rise. Imagine commuting, eating, and living entirely in darkness for weeks at a time. Developed around mining and metal production, the city operates in conditions that punish ordinary materials, leaving a legacy of strategic importance and severe pollution. The isolation is absolute. There is no road trip from Norilsk to Moscow. Connection to the outside world depends entirely on aviation and specialized transport. It isn't a tiny research station, it's a real city. Thousands of families living where winter dominates most of the year. But Norilsk still isn't the coldest major city on our list. To find that, we travel even deeper into Siberia. Next, Yakutsk. Number 2. Yakutsk, Russia. At first glance, Yakutsk looks like a normal city. Then you notice what people are wearing: heavy coats and fur-lined hoods built for emergencies. This is one of the coldest major cities on Earth. Winter temperatures plunge below -40 degrees. Once it hits that level, normal life obeys different rules. The strangest problem is below ground. Built on permafrost, buildings are elevated on piles to prevent their heat from thawing the frozen soil. It's survival engineering. Despite the cold, life continues. Children attend school and restaurants open. In Yakutsk, extreme weather isn't an unusual event, it's the environment. A city here is an enormous life support system, but our number 1 city faces a combining problem that is truly unsettling. Number 1. The Arctic city fighting the ground beneath it. In the far north, the assumption that the ground is permanent can fail. It's an invisible battle underneath everything humans have built. Permafrost contains ice. When it thaws, the ground loses volume and sinks. Roads bend, pipes shift, and foundations that were stable for years suddenly crack. In Yakutsk, the entire urban identity is connected to this ground. The city survives because humans have learned to work with the cold. The lesson isn't that we conquered nature. It's that we've become incredibly good at negotiating with it, depending on energy and engineering every single day. So which of these cities would you survive in for a year? Tell us in the comments, and subscribe for more cinematic explorations of our extreme planet.